Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another Pesach Perspectives, where we are going to start having a little look now at some ideas and some creative thinking to actually bring the people that we're going to have around our tables into the Seder. Rabbi and Jacqueline gave an amazing session last night, talking about more of a focus on the people who are going to have Seders alone or in very small gatherings. I'm going to talk a little bit this evening about ways in which we can perhaps make it exciting still, even in our smaller family settings. You know, there's going to be lots of families in our area and beyond who are going to be having their Seder experiences with their little kids, with their teenage kids. And so the thought was that tonight we can explore a little bit about that. Just as a FYI, tomorrow night we're going to be hopefully screening a recording of Rabbi Malcolm Herman, who some may consider to be a particular master in the field of Seder preparation and ways of engaging kids and teenagers. So I don't for one second think that I can do half as good a job as he can. However, I do have some interesting things that I thought I could send your way. And it's for you guys to think about and reflect upon and find the relevance in and find what works for you. One of the things that I definitely agree with Rabbi and Jacqueline when she was talking about this last night is the fact that we are going to be at home either alone or at least in smaller settings. We can certainly afford to be a bit more creative and a bit more outlandish and a bit more risky with the things that we experiment with. So things that might not normally pass the gold standard when we are together with friends or with relatives, we could probably give them more of a shot this year. One idea that I know is popular in some areas of North Bushy is to take your Seder experience over to your couch and to have everybody sitting on couches. And I know that the particular family that I can think of that are quite well known for this, they do that whatever the size of the Seder, however many people. They take the Magid part of the Seder, they do it more chilled and more relaxed, and they're all sitting around on couches. And I think that's a brilliant idea. You know, if you've got enough furniture in the house to be able to do something like that, then go for it. But there's other ways as well to try and get absorbed into the experience. One thing, certainly as parents of young children and of teenagers as well, that we have to remember is it's these experiences that really shape and form children's attitudes to their Judaism, to their Jewish identity, to their Jewish experiences. And so wherever possible, I really think we have to make our Seder nights engaging, meaningful, relevant. And I think the parents are going to have a harder time this year because for particularly academic or intellectual or engaged people who are keen to understand really why they're doing what they're doing, I think that parents are going to have a harder time this year trying to demonstrate to their children why it's important. And I think parents, I think all of us really, we have to think about that as well. What is it all about? Why is this meaningful? Does it still retain its meaning when certain cultural and social advantages are taken away from us? I think that's something that people are going to have to think about a great deal this year. And it's worth mentioning that the rabbinic team are here to help you tackle those questions and to help you approach those issues. Because I think this year more than ever, the teenagers especially are going to challenge us a whole lot more with trying to understand what we're doing. Perhaps I can make mention of some of the important lessons that we are trying to convey with a Seder experience. Why we do this year on year for the last 3,300 years, essentially. a little bit over. You know, one of the important lessons, I think, one of the important things to understand is how sitting at a Seder table in 2020 demonstrates the unbroken chain of transmission that we have been a part of ever since the Jews came out of Egypt. We are able to trace step by step, person by person, generation to generation. We are able to trace the Jewish lineage all the way back to the Jews at the giving of the Torah at Mount Sinai, and also to the Jews leaving Egypt. That's an amazing thing. That's an incredible thing. For if we were to drive that point home alone, no pun intended, that would be an amazing achievement. If if we were all to come away with this understanding that we are part of a people and a lineage that has been going for thousands of years, I think that's quite an impressive point to understand. I think there's also a point to be made to understand what it feels like to put our trust in Hashem. And I think certainly nowadays, today, at this current point in time, I think that is something that is going to be thought about and reflected by a lot of people in the community. And it's a really important point to take the time to explore at our Seder tables. What it means to talk about a loving Father, a loving God who has been protecting our people throughout a very tumultuous history. I think that's a topic of conversation worth having and worth researching into before you get to the table, and worth reflecting and meditating on before we sit at our Seder tables next week. Because that's what a big part of understanding the Seder experience and understanding the story is all about. You know, one of the things that I reflect on usually around Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur time, when we say the prayer Avinu Malkeinu, understanding what it means that God is our Father as well as our King. It was once explained to me that there are different ways in which we can interact and appreciate the parents in our lives. And it was explained to me with the following example. Let's say you come home one day and you're really, really thirsty. It's boiling hot outside, and you come into the kitchen and there is a glass of freezing cold water on your kitchen table. You think, oh, that is just perfect for me right now. And you reach over to the cup of water on the table, you pick it up, you put it to your lips. Of course, you say the bracha as well, you know. And just as you're about to drink it, all of a sudden your dad jumps out of nowhere and smacks it out of your hand. How do you react to that? How do you react to that? So the way that I heard this explanation was, broadly speaking, there's three ways that you can react to it. Reaction number one is, about to drink the drink, your father smacks it out of your hand, and you turn to him and you say, "Are you mad? What are you thinking? I was just about to drink that. I'm so thirsty. You're just going to smack it out of your hand." At which point, your father turns around to you and says, "Well, you know, it's a good thing that I did smack it out of your hand, because actually that cup was full of poison." And at that point, the son, the child, whatever, is going to turn to his father, turn to his mother, whoever it is that you're imagining in this story, and says, "Oh my gosh, thank you so much. You saved my life." That's reaction number one. Reaction number two is, got a cup of water, you're about to drink it, the father smacks it out of your hand, and you start processing in your thoughts, and you say, "My father would never do anything to harm me, and he'd never do anything to upset me, so there must have been something wrong with that drink." So you turn around to your father and you say, "I mean, what was going on?" And your father says, "Oh, yeah, well, actually there was poison in the cup, and if you'd have drunk it, you'd have died." At which point you become eternally grateful that your father has saved your life. Reaction number three is, you take the cup, you put it to your lips, and just as about you to drink it, your father comes and smacks it out of your hand, and you turn to him with a smile on your face, and you say, "There was poison in the cup, wasn't there?" In other words, the more we understand and the more we internalize the fact that Hashem loves us and Hashem cares about us, then whatever it is that comes our way, we'll understand is ultimately for our benefit, or ultimately because it's going to strengthen us as individuals, or ultimately it's going to bring out koach and talents and resilience within us that we never knew was there before. So that's another thing to think about. That actually leads me on to another thought that I was going to share with you tonight, which is there's part of the Seder where where we talk about a statement by Rabban Gamliel. Rabban Gamliel says that if you don't talk about these three things at your Seder, then you basically missed the point. You've not fulfilled your obligation. And the three things that he says you have to talk about are Pesach, matzo, and maror. The Passover lamb, the sacrifice, matzo, and maror. And if we haven't reflected on these things, we haven't spoken about them, then maybe we've missed the point. So to briefly explain one idea about what these three things represent will help us to understand that the whole Seder experience is not just about tradition. It's not just about doing things. You know, we don't just do things because that's what people do. We do things because they have meaning. Because otherwise, what are we doing? What are we playing at? I mean, Pesach, all right, fine. So there was a point in history where God passed over the doors of the Jews and smoked all of the firstborn. All right. So why do I have to be bothering with that now? That was years ago. What's that got to do with me now? Yeah, matzah. Why do we eat matzah? Well, you know, you have to understand that your ancestors, when they were leaving Egypt, they didn't have enough time to bake bread. And so they escaped Egypt, and the matzah's baked on their back. And because the matzah's baked on their backs, we have to eat matzah now. We have to talk about matzah now. And you're just like, well, we've come a long way since then. You're telling me that I have to eat crackers that taste of cardboard because once upon a time there was a technical problem that they didn't have enough time for the bread to rise. So now I have to suffer. Now I have to eat matzah. I mean, what's going on? Maror. Maror is just a big fat guilt trip. Why do we eat maror? Well, our ancestors had a very bitter time in Egypt, and for that reason, we have to eat maror. Well, okay, but you know, I don't do things because I get guilt tripped into doing them. I'm a kid living in 2020. I mean, give me something that relates to me. Give me something that is help me out over here. I have to eat maror. I have to burn my face off with horseradish because a bunch of people that I never met had a particularly hard time thousands of years ago. And you can understand how for some people it might not be the most engaging and most relevant thing. And the point is that what we're doing here is we're not just doing traditions and we're not just ticking boxes over here, because one day there's going to come a time where people don't necessarily want to tick boxes anymore. And this year might be one of those years. So we need to really think about why we're doing what we're doing. And we have to make it relevant and we have to make it engaging. So I'd like to share with you perhaps one thought about Pesach, Matzah, Maror, what they represent, and how it fits into the Seder experience. We have to understand the Seder experience, going through the story, reliving it, acting it out, all of the songs, all of the prayers, all of the components, all of the stages that we go through is all about understanding how amazing we are as individuals, and it's about understanding the greatness that lies within inside each and every one of us. And Pesach, Matzah, Maror help us out with that. Pesach, the fact that Hashem passed over the houses of the Jewish people and only struck the homes of the Egyptians, is to help us understand that we have been chosen. But we have been chosen. We are the chosen people. And there was something that Hashem saw in us that made us worthy of being chosen. You know, if we cast our minds back and picture what those Jews were going through in Egypt, right? As they're listening to all of the people dying around them and hearing the shouting and the crying and the screaming and the pain and the suffering, and they were sitting there and they were realizing that they are about to be chosen by Hashem, that Hashem sees something in them and sees the greatness that is latent within them, that is making them worthy of being freed from Egypt. Now, I'm not trying to compare one kind of chosenness to another, but we're going through a period of time now where we're too sitting in our homes and we're too hearing the suffering. And I'm not saying that Hashem is choosing who he's choosing and God forbid people are suffering because of whatever reason. I'm not saying any of that. But the point is that we are able to at least emotionally tap into what the Jews back then must have been feeling like, because we ourselves are feeling that as well now. Completely different kind of arena, but the same kind of concept. We're able to understand what it means to be living in a time of uncertainty and a period of fear. And please God, in a few weeks, days, months' time, or whatever it is, we're going to come out on the other side of this, and we'll be stronger people and a healthier people, whatever else. But to understand what they were going through 3,300 years ago, the message resonates and is still relevant even today. That we have to understand that within each and every one of us, there's a worthiness, there's a power, there are talents, there's a uniqueness that we can bring to the world. That's part of the message of Pesach. Part of the message of matzah is not just that, okay, well, it happened then, so we do it now. It's not just about that. It's not just about that. The message of matzah is to seize the opportunity, to understand what the difference in a microsecond can make between taking action and remaining inactive. Right? When it comes to matzah, if we go over a particular threshold, it becomes chametz, and that's poison for us over Pesach. We can't have chametz. Yeah? Matzah represents a point of understanding that a person has to seize the moment. You know, successful people get to where they are because they seize moments. They don't wait and push things off and procrastinate and say, I'm going to deal with this tomorrow. They don't do that. Successful people, the people who make it big in the world, are the ones who realize what they have to be doing. They set their minds to it. They get on with it, and they don't let anything rise. They don't let anything get in the way of what they see as their challenge, of what they see as their goal. Well, that's an immensely powerful message for nowadays. To understand that if I've got a goal, if I've got an idea, if I've got a drive, if I've got a vision, if I've got a place where I want to be in X number of years' time, I have to invest now and I have to get it done instantly and not wait. Because if I wait, then maybe something will get in the way and something will happen and I won't be able to do it. And then Maro, there's a key message of Maro over here, which is that not everything's always going to go our way. And there's going to be challenges and there's going to be obstacles and there's going to be bitter moments. But we don't just shove them to the side. We don't just turn around after a bitter moment and say, you know, that really distracted me from my journey. That really distracted me from my goal, from my vision. If we utilize and understand what a painful moment is, what a bitter moment is, we'll look back on these things and realize that they shaped us and they molded us and they formed us into who we are. Life doesn't exist without challenges. Are you just going to ignore the challenges and give up, or are you going to keep on going even though you can't see where you're going to get to, even though you can't see the light at the end of the tunnel? You keep on going with the perseverance, with the resilience, and then at the end of it, we're stronger. And at the end of it, we look back and realize what we've managed to overcome and how impressive that is. You know, we are who we are because of the experiences that we've had. Someone once said that Yad Vashem is in Israel. Why is it in Israel? Why is it in Europe? Let it stay in Europe. Why do we need to remind ourselves of what happened? Yad Vashem is in Israel because it's part of our identity, because it's part of the story. Because as Jews, we understand that it's these bitter moments that shape us, that they can be immensely painful to go through and devastating to go through, but they are part of the Jewish picture. They are part of our story, our lives, and they build us and they shape us into who we are. And so we don't just say leave the moral off the table. It happened too long ago. It's not relevant anymore. We put moral in the center stage. We put it on the Seder plate. Yeah, because we don't just shun challenge. We don't just ignore the bad that has happened in our lives and shove it to one side. We embrace it, and we understand that it's part of the story. And we understand that it's part of the picture. And not only that, but we take the moral, we dip it into charosa, and we dip it into hope, and we dip it into sweetness, and we dip it into vitality and whatever else charoset represents to you. And we understand that we're taking these bad things that have happened and we're dipping them into the good, because we understand that it's all part of our identity. So those are, in my opinion, hugely powerful things to reflect on, hugely powerful things to discuss, to understand that we as individuals all have a journey in life. We are all full of talent. We are all full of potential. We have so much to give and so much to get. But not only that, but we have to act and we have to take advantage of everything that comes our way. And we have to absorb the challenges and the obstacles and realize that it's part of the story as well, and not to just ignore it and not to just shake it off as being something that is meaningless. It's what shapes us. Another couple of ideas in the remaining time that we have. There's going to be points at the Seder where you realize that there are perhaps times where you can discuss, where you can reflect. It certainly works for older audiences, perhaps more than the younger audiences, but we're going to come to a few minutes for the younger audiences, So when we get to Dayenu, there's an opportunity there as we go through each stage and we say, that would have been enough, this would have been enough, that would have been enough, the story could have ended there and it would have been plenty. There's an opportunity there for us to think about what we are thankful for, to talk about the things in our lives that we're grateful for. It's so easy with all the noise that we have going on at the moment to just think that everything is terrible. But I guarantee you, if we carve out a time in our Seders to talk about the things that are going well, not just the good things and the health that people might be able to enjoy, but just try and hone in and identify all the things in our lives that we still have an element of gratitude for. That's an amazingly powerful experience as well, to realize how much good we have in our lives, even when there is so much bad that gets in our heads and distracts us. All right, so a couple of things maybe just for the young families as well. We have to think about how these Seder nights are going to go. A number of us are going to be starting early, so to speak, and having the Zoom components to our Seders before Yom Tov comes in, tuning into our families wherever they may be. And we've got opportunities there to really go crazy and to really try some things out that we wouldn't necessarily think of doing normally. We're going to be sharing games and ideas and creative ways to bring kids into the experience. In the past, we've tried things like Pesach bingo. I think we've even tried that at the community Seder. Seemed to go quite well. Rabbi and Jacqueline was referring to the songbooks. A lot of people enjoy the parody songs. There's a lot of those floating around. But there's other games that one can incorporate into the experience. Headbands is a particularly enjoyable one. Kids get a lot out of that. You can try anything. We're going to we'll post some game ideas up on the resources database. But there's a lot of things that you can do, Pesach related games, where you can bring the kids in. Taboo, for those of you who are familiar with Taboo, you can have a Pesach related taboo game You can have, I tried this thing a couple of years ago, creating the longest Pesach related word with Scrabble letters. Yeah, I can upload that as well. These are things that, on the one hand, they distract the kids for a little bit, and on the other hand, it becomes a fun experience for the whole family. And if we plan in advance, we can do these things. We can do these things online before Yom Tov comes in as well, and involve more people and be really fun. One thing that is really worth saying is that the experience for kids doesn't start on Seder night. It starts already, it's already been going since they've been home from school. But the whole process leading up to Pesach, our kids are going to be watching us like hawks and seeing how we react and seeing how we treat this time. And it's going to be a huge part of shaping their identity and shaping their memories. If they see us engaging with it positively, if they see us being passionate, if they see us being excited about it, that's going to transmit, and that is going to translate into their Jewish identity. If we just kind of take a very negative approach to it, it's going to have a negative impact on what they think of Pesach. They're not going to have the normal go crazy opportunities with cousins this year. They're not going to have that. They're going to need their mummies and daddies to really make it a time where they feel special, where they feel engaged, where they feel part of the experience. And so we have to try super duper hard this year to be the enthusiastic participants for our kids' sake. So go crazy with them. We're gonna again send out some ideas and some resources. I don't know if every school has sent home Haggadah creating projects. There's different arts and crafts that one can call upon to get the kids to prepare Haggadah kits. What would you call it otherwise? But different ideas to help them understand what the different parts of the Seder are, different arts and crafts that they can do, so that they come to the table with something that they've enjoyed making, even if it's just coloring sheets. Give them coloring sheets if they're that young. Give them coloring sheets so that they can come to the table with all 15 different pages of all the different steps of the Seder that they've colored in, that they've created, that they feel proud of, and then they come to the Seder table with it. It's a completely different experience. Make the effort with Bedikat Chametz when it comes to searching for Chametz. Fine, they might be in bed already when it's nighttime, but let them do some element of a kid's Bedikat Chametz. Let them help clean. Shira has this great idea. I have to say this really quietly just in case the kids can hear me. But fill up an empty spray bottle with water. And let them go crazy with it. Let them wash down all the surfaces that they want to, and know that and then sleep comfortably that they've not wasted all of your bleach spray or surface spray. But give them a cloth, give them something to do, let them get involved, and let them feel excited about it, and let them feel part of it as well. Roberts and Jacqueline was talking last night about different Haggadahs. There's the really old children's Haggadah that she showed us, and I also used to use that Haggadah. But there are a lot of other Haggadahs now aimed at children and aimed at children and teenagers. There's one that someone showed me a while back, which is like a comic book Haggadah, which is like I think it's aimed more at the teenagers or older kids or adults. Why not? No one's watching you this year. So try something new, try something different, try something that doesn't have thee, thy, thou, thought, thine, and whatever other old-fashioned words are in some of the Haggadahs that we're using. Again, a plug for anyone that needs a Haggadah from the shul. Be in touch, and we can do that. And experiment. This is the year to experiment. This is the year to really engage with it and show our kids what it's all about. Make the table look nice, dress it up, get your Lego people out, get your Playmobil people out, or whatever other figurines, put them all down the middle of the table, put blue strips down either side, and there you go. You've got a Seder table that looks like the Jews walking through the Red Sea. Make a couple of pyramids, chuck them on there, create a whole movie set if you really want. Our kids will remember this, and this year more than any other year, they'll remember it so much more clearly, because this will be the year where they see what it means to us and how much effort we put in. So all that's left to say is good luck. Keep your eyes peeled for all the resources that are going to be coming out. Remember that you got people at the other end of the phone, people at the other end of WhatsApp, people at the other end of Zoom that you can speak to. We're all here for you. We all want it to be the most amazing Chag that it can possibly be. And we really, really wish you the happiest and healthiest of Pesachs. So with that, signing out. Have a good night. Speak to you soon.